Hey,
Okay,
Mike with Webs Unweaved, and I'm here with Joe from Astute Data. How you doing, Joe?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm going to give you the floor. Let's just jump right in. And why don't you tell me about your business?
Wow. Okay. So, so I had started programming compute. I actually started programming in the early '80s. I taught myself how to program, and
Okay.
in the early '90s, I started working it as a career. And then about the mid '90s, I decided to start doing it as a consulting process instead. Because I found that I really like working one-on-one directly with clients. Um, there's a lot of personal satisfaction in working directly with people, with the end users especially. And I also like the variety, because generally as a consultant, I'll work on a project, you know, generally not for very long, sometimes a year or two. The longest contract I had was 3 years, which is quite a while, but I get a lot of opportunity for variety. I've worked with a lot of companies over the decades. I used to work with one up in Saratoga Springs. They did a website similar to WebMD. I've done work for the New York State Museum, for St. Peter's Hospital, for a local construction company, Santa Reuben. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And I've got a lot of experience under my belt because I've not only done contracting off and on over the years, but I've also worked full time for a variety of companies. I was in Tucson for 13 years and I worked for the county out there in criminal justice. So I have a wide background of experience, and the really cool thing is I have the ability to work directly with end users, even when they're not so tech savvy. I get a lot of friends and friends of friends who say, "Oh, I'm having some trouble with my computer, or I want to be able to do this or that," and I generally help them out as well. So I have a real natural ability to work directly with non-tech people.
Friends always, once they hear that you're in computers or something, they always want to,
Yes.
hey, can you fix my computer? You know,
Yep.
Uh, you know, uh, you probably know, and as a computer guy, there's usually like three different um, sections or like sects. You kind of like in religion. You have fixing computers, you have programming, and you have networking, right?
Yes.
We usually
Yes.
fall into one unless we're a really great jack of all trades. We usually fall into one. So do you feel you're more of the programming side?
I'm stronger with programming.
Hmm.
I've done a lot of tinkering over the years with computers, so I know enough about basic upgrading.
Right, hard
Uh,
drives or building
yeah,
talent.
hard drives, memory, stuff
Mhm.
like that. Um,
Nowadays, not so much. It's not so much prevalent and or useful because now you just buy a laptop or some kind of small computer that's already set. It's probably
yeah,
not a lot of need or not a lot of actually end users that actually buy some kind of a bare bones put together.
not too many people, and the prices are so low on computers now that
Hmm.
you can get, for the average person, even the lowest end computer is going to be more than they could ever use.
Right.
So, and most of the time, the only thing I ever recommend is more memory.
More memory. Yeah, memory is always
Yeah,
a good one. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, some like Chromebooks or whatever, even because a lot of people are just
Hmm.
looking to get online and do their web banking online or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just
I
log
actually
into
have a
it.
Chromebook because I ran a writers group many years ago, and
Oh,
I would bring the Chromebook with me
mhm.
because it was very light, and all I needed to do was just connect to do some writing, and that was it.
Yeah.
So it's a nice, Chromebooks are very nice and easy when all you're doing is just basic, connecting to the internet, social media, maybe a little bit of writing here and there. So yeah, those are
Mhm.
great, great tools.
So now, did you go to school for this at all from way back?
I actually have a minor in computer science. My
Okay.
bachelor's is in mathematics.
It's similar, at least you can use them. You can use them both, especially
Yeah,
computers. There's formulas, and you have your, um,
yes.
you're going to use math to.
Yeah, the math has actually come in pretty handy for some of the projects I've worked on over the
Mhm.
years.
That's awesome. So, what made you decide to like start a business? So I know you're doing a lot of contracting and all that. You've done that early on. Do you still contract, like, maybe with the state, or where are you located, by the way?
I'm actually in Latham.
You're in
Latham,
Latham.
New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw the 520.
Yeah, that's my so in 2002 I moved to Arizona.
Yep, Arizona.
My dad was out there. He passed away in 2012.
Sorry to
And
hear
then
that.
2000, no thanks. And then 2015 I moved back,
Hmm.
uh, mainly because of friends and family, not because of the weather for sure.
Right.
but
Right. No, not the weather.
no, most of my family is here, and I still had friends that I kept in touch with, and so I kept the 520 number. Um, so
Right.
yeah, that's so. But I'm right here in Latham.
You're here in Latham. Now, of
I
course, you can help anybody from, probably Zoom or Skype or something,
yes,
right? Um, so,
yep.
so did you actually have Astute Data for a while, or or is this something new?
That came about while I was in Arizona. And that probably would have been about 2003, 2004. I think I started that website.
Hmm.
So back in the 90s, I actually had my own S corporation, um, and doing a lot of consulting. And then the dot-com crash came about and kind of killed the contracting business for a while. So I went back to work for
Hmm.
companies. And then when I moved back here, I retired from the county in Arizona, moved back here and started contracting again.
Hmm.
And I was doing pretty well. But then a year ago, I got an amazing offer from a local company, which I took. So I've been working full time, but I really miss the contract work and working directly with customers. Because right now I'm not working directly with the customers. I'm shielded from them,
Right.
uh, which
In
again
what
is
way? Do you have project managers and all that you
yes,
interact with, or
yeah, 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 yeah.
Mhm.
So so it kind of takes the for me it kind of takes the oomph out of the job, because
Right.
I really like working directly with people. Um, yeah, I had worked for a couple of years at the State Museum, doing some Microsoft Access upgrades for them.
Hmm.
I've been working on a 4.5 year project for St. Peter's.
Wow.
Yeah, that we just put the final piece in place about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Mhm.
So that's kind of ended, and it's just like kind of wow, it's just I miss that direct communication with the end users.
So now, are you looking for, for your business, and this just might be wide open, but are you looking for more companies to, that where you can interact with them and do some contract work for them? Or are you more now looking for, individuals to help them, with math skills or programming skills and so forth?
I think it's going to be kind of a mix of the two.
Hmm.
It's hard to get. I imagine at some point I could probably build up enough working with individuals to make an income, but that would be a lot of individuals.
Right.
So I want to find some kind of balance between the two,
Hmm.
because if I can get a decent project with a local company, um, I charge a slightly higher rate for that.
Hmm.
So that kind of gives me um, a stronger income base, and then I can also spend some of my time with individuals and helping them. Um, and I kind of really want to focus a bit on the individuals right now as well, primarily because everybody's relying on social media and Zoom and things like that. They're relying on their computers more. So I'd really like to see if I can kind of branch out in that area now to help people understand not only using the social media, but also how to keep their computers safe,
Right.
because security becomes a huge issue now.
Exactly. So now, as far as security is concerned, what are you usually recommending? Do you have what like training do you have in security or other than what you've done in the past?
Well, with the various companies that I've worked with over the years, I've been to many trainings on cybersecurity.
Hmm.
Um, and one thing that I've learned is there's some very simple basics uh, that you can do to keep your computer safe, and it's just like a handful of guidelines,
Right. A lot of
which
end users, regular end users, maybe only need maybe a handful. It's not like they're a huge company where they have to like lock down.
Yes, exactly right. That's
Right.
exactly right. Yeah, if you're a big company, you're more vulnerable because people are going to try and steal your data.
Right.
Personal users, not as much of a problem. It's more just watching out for those scams and hoaxes which come around, and there are ways to identify those.
Like those princes from Nigeria.
Yeah, exactly right, exactly right.
That's
And now with the stimulus checks, there was a whole rash of scams about getting your payment and divulging your personal information. So
right.
yeah, there are things to watch out for.
Now I see you're pretty much well versed in chemistry, statistics. Math.
Yes. So here's the thing is
Yeah.
I graduated from SUNY at Albany in 1989.
Hmm.
My major was mathematics. My minor was computer science. I have undeclared minors in both physics and chemistry as well.
Great.
Uh, and I've also spent 8 years teaching as an adjunct for community colleges, teaching both math and computers.
Okay. So you're very qualified to show anyone or teach anybody. It actually work at all. Your resume must be incredible.
Yeah.
The projects you've worked on. Um, and I know a lot of times when you go into contracts, especially in the early days, they would pretty much just ask you if you knew something, and you just say yes, and they put you on. They don't test you,
Right.
thing, right? Nowadays, it might be a little more difficult, but having the education and the knowledge that you have, I'm sure you have no problem getting into any contract that
Yeah.
is out there today.
Yeah.
So, what do you feel is your, as far as computers and programming is concerned, what do you feel is your strong point as far as programming?
Well, I've most of my work has been in the Windows environment.
Windows, okay.
Yep. Yep. So I'm going to get slightly technical here.
Sure.
Most of the work I've done has been using a database called SQL Server,
Yep.
using Visual Studio, and primarily with Visual Basic.
Okay.
Uh, uh, and unfortunately, Visual Basic is kind of a dying language at the moment. So I'm
Hmm.
trying to learn C# because there's a lot of companies looking for C# now.
Right.
Uh, I have worked on projects using Oracle and Java, so I do have some background in that. Not as much. My stronger point is clearly the Windows environment. I do
Hmm.
have a lot of experience with Microsoft Access databases,
Okay.
so Excel spreadsheets. I've done some pretty complicated data analysis projects with Excel spreadsheets as well. So I'm pretty strong with Microsoft Office.
So now, using say Microsoft Access, do you find that there's uh, that you develop a lot more programs in Access if, say, there's a SQL Server backend? or do you still use just a Microsoft Access, you know,
If
total?
if the company has SQL Server, I will often recommend that we use that as the back end instead.
What do you use for the
Um,
front end then at that point?
with Microsoft Access, you can use Microsoft Access as the front end.
Right, for the
And
forms, right.
yep, and I've done quite a few of those.
Mm-hmm.
So with forms and reports. So it really depends on what the customer has available to them. With the St. Peter's project, the first one I did was a cash receipts, and it was originally just a Microsoft Access only, front and back end. So when I redid that, they wanted it in Microsoft Access,
Mm-hmm.
but we were able to move the back end to SQL Server.
Oh, good.
So that was done that way. And then when we did the second part of the project, that was the reconciling part. They needed more security.
Mm-hmm.
So I suggested instead of using Microsoft Access as the front end, that we develop a web front end instead.
Right.
So that's what I did for that part, for the reconciliation part. We've got a
Mm-hmm.
web front end to the same SQL Server database on the back end. And this way I was able to incorporate a bit more security than I could with the Access database.
Right. Now that front end, were you, what did you use for the front end? Was it, did you use the, like a Visual Basic program?
Yep, that's correct. So I used Visual Studio
Mm-hmm.
to build the web front end, the web pages using Visual Basic as the language.
Okay. Now, is that, did ASP come into play at all for that? Because that,
Yes, actually yes, because when you're developing web pages, it uses ASP as the framework is what it
Mhm.
is.
Right. And so in Visual Studio or pretty much ASP, depending on um, the, uh, the web server, you can either use VBA for the scripting language, or you can use a JavaScript, right? But mostly when you're using ASP, you're using Visual Basic, VBA.
Yes.
VBA,
There
there's
are
more
there there are
script.
there are things you want to use. You don't see the VB script used as much as the
Mhm.
JavaScript. But there are instances where I will use JavaScript on the page
Mhm.
just for some basic validation, so I don't have to keep hitting back to the server all the time.
Right, right. So you said Visual Basic is going out, and you're been using more C Sharp.
I'm trying to learn it.
Learning C Sharp.
I haven't actually done any projects yet that require C sharp. So, but it's C sharp is similar enough to Java that I should be able to pick it up pretty quick. It's just
Yeah. So
using a
you
slightly different environment. So that's where I'm struggling is the different environment.
right. Right. It's probably the framework is different for in Java
Yes.
than it is in the .NET framework, correct?
Yes.
So
Yep. That's
would
correct.
you go? The newest .NET is .NET Core. Would you just move right to that, where you can use, it's more of an MVC environment in .NET Core, although you can do MVC in just a regular .NET framework.
You can. What I've discovered is those frameworks are nice if you have what's called an enterprise level application,
Hmm.
because there are a lot of things you can leverage. The problem with frameworks is there's a lot of knowledge that goes with using them, and smaller companies don't have that need. It's kind of like overkill when you're dealing with smaller companies and smaller projects.
Right, right. Yeah, I would agree. A lot of big, smaller companies wouldn't be upgrading to, say, .NET Core. They would just stick to
Right.
regular,
Yeah,
C Sharp, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So are you finding more Oracle out there, or more SQL Server in your contract work?
I well, because I tend to find more SQL Server simply because that's what my skill set is.
Makes
So,
sense, right? Right.
yeah.
Right. You
So,
want to look for
you know,
stuff that is
well,
within your
well,
wheelhouse, right?
you see what you're looking for, right? That's the,
Right.
the you know, I'm sure that if I decided to make my focus Oracle, that I would
Mhm.
start seeing more Oracle
Right, right,
projects. So I tend, and my Oracle, it's been, oh gosh, probably over 10 years actually since I've used Oracle. So, it's out of the loop enough that I almost hesitate putting it on my resume anymore.
right, right. Well, I guess with the little nuances, it's still ANSI SQL until you run into things like, say, case statements or something. The syntax
Yeah.
is a little different
Yeah,
between
yeah, there are
and
differences in
Oracle.
syntax, but one thing that I've learned is that if you've got a good fundamental understanding of what programming is all about, of the basic concepts, what is a loop, what is a selection,
Hmm.
so on and so forth. All the rest is just a matter of syntax, and you
Right.
can find that easily enough. It's more. In fact, I actually wrote a book
Wow.
called Programming Fundamentals,
Okay.
in
Is it
which
out?
yeah, it's out there. You can actually, I think I discontinued it recently. Yeah, I just recently. I mean, I've got copies here on my bookshelf. But
Oh,
basically, what it does is it takes Visual Basic and Java side by side,
oh wow.
and it shows you here's what a loop looks like in Visual Basic. Here's what it looks
Mhm.
like in Java. Because the
Right.
whole idea is if you understand what a loop is in two distinctly different languages, then
Hmm.
you really know what a loop is.
Right. Right. Exactly. And of course, the old VB, like VB6 on is definitely a different look than the VB.net. Uh,
Yes, it is. Yeah.
not too much, but you compare C sharp, to or Java to Visual Basic, pretty
Mhm.
many. Uh,
Right. Well, they're two different. They're two entirely different families
yeah, yeah,
because Java, the whole line of Java comes from C sharp, C++,
yeah.
and
C++.
C, and before that it was Pascal.
Mhm.
So they're all inheriting essentially from Pascal, whereas Visual Basic actually developed from the original Basic, Dartmouth Basic is
Darth,
what it was
right?
called. Yeah, yep, it
Yeah.
was developed at Dartmouth. So, you go back to the late 50s, early 60s, it was Basic and COBOL and Fortran and Pascal.
Yeah, they must be fun, right? Fortune.
Well, I took COBOL in college,
Oh
so
boy.
that's an interesting one. Yeah.
So now, aren't there still a lot of state contracts out there that are still using COBOL?
Yes, that's correct. There are. Yes, and the reason for that is it was a huge. Um, everybody was using it back in the '60s, and because they have so much code written in COBOL, the cost to convert it all is just incredible. I mean, it's just not worth it. It's just better to hire the COBOL programmers and just keep it going in COBOL.
Right, right. So in Astute Data, you want to, gain more, contracts, help other businesses with any of their
Hmm.
any technology that they have, and you also want to
Hmm.
and help people.
Yes, yes, yep. So both personal personal one-on-one, as well as small businesses, small offices. There's a lot I can do to help automate and make their job easier.
So, is there anything else that you would like people to know about your business and you?
Hmm, that's a good question. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think we covered quite a bit.
I believe
One,
so.
and I guess one of the major things I want to stress is that I am very good with non-technical people. I'm very good at helping them be at ease. I've been told I have the patience of a saint. Uh,
I can see that.
so yeah, I guess that's one of my strong selling points. I think right there is I can really help people. I can relate to people, and that makes a big difference.
It does. It does. Well, thank you, Joe, for interviewing with me today. It was a pleasure.